notices it every time. The small hesitation before they text back. The way they get close, then quietly step back, right when things start to feel real. You tell yourself it's timing. You tell yourself they're just busy, or guarded, or not ready yet. But some part of you already knows the pattern, because this isn't the first time. And the strange part isn't that it keeps happening. The strange part is who you walk past to get there. Think about the people who were actually available to you. The ones who texted back within the hour. The ones who said what they meant, and meant what they said. Something in you found them boring, flat, a little too easy. And the ones who blew hot and cold, who gave you just enough to stay hooked and just little enough to keep you guessing, those are the ones you couldn't stop thinking about. You start rewriting the story in your head. Maybe I just haven't met the right one yet. Maybe I'm the problem. Too much, too needy, too intense. Over time, this pattern doesn't just shape your relationships. It shapes your identity. You start to believe that love is something you chase, not something that simply arrives. You start mistaking anxiety for chemistry. You start calling peace boring, and calling inconsistency passion. And every failed attempt adds one more line to the same internal sentence. People like me don't get chosen easily. This isn't bad luck. This is a pattern. And patterns are built somewhere. Here's the part almost no one tells you. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not doomed to love people who can't love you back. What you're running is an old strategy, one that used to make sense. Somewhere, at some point, your nervous system learned that love was inconsistent. That affection had to be earned, chased, or won. Maybe it was a parent who was warm one day and distant the next. Maybe it was a household where attention came with conditions. Maybe no one hurt you dramatically. It was just quiet, low-grade unpredictability, repeated enough times to become a blueprint. Your brain didn't decide this randomly. It adapted to the environment it grew up in. And adaptations don't disappear just because the environment changes. They keep running in the background, long after they've stopped being useful. So the question isn't, what's wrong with me? The question is something else entirely, something most people never actually ask. Here's what's actually happening underneath. Psychologists call it the intermittent reinforcement effect, the same mechanism that makes slot machines addictive. When a reward comes every single time, your brain logs it, and moves on. Predictable rewards don't spike dopamine much at all. But when a reward comes sometimes, unpredictably, occasionally, just enough to keep you hoping, dopamine spikes harder, and the behavior becomes far more compulsive to repeat. Think of your attention like water pulled by tide. A steady shoreline doesn't move much water, but a shoreline that keeps pulling back, then rushing in, then pulling back again, that's what creates the current. An unavailable partner behaves like that unpredictable shoreline. Warm, then distant, present, then gone. And your nervous system, wired for that early pattern, mistakes the current for connection. There's a second piece too, something attachment theory calls the familiarity bias. Your brain doesn't just look for what feels good, it looks for what feels familiar, because familiar has historically meant survivable. If inconsistency was your early template for love, consistency can feel oddly unsafe, like waiting for a shoe that never drops, which somehow feels more unsettling than the shoe dropping. So you're not choosing chaos because you enjoy pain. You're choosing it because your nervous system reads chaos as home. But here's the part that actually matters. The part that changes everything once you understand it. Step 1, name the pull, don't obey it. The next time you feel that instant magnetic charge towards someone, that, I have to have them, feeling, pause and simply say to yourself, this might be familiarity, not compatibility. Why it works. Labeling an emotional reaction activates the prefrontal cortex and reduces amygdala reactivity, a well-documented process called affect labeling. Naming the pull weakens its automatic grip. Example, you match with someone who runs hot and cold within the first 3 days. Instead of chasing the high, you write one line in your notes app. This feels like the old pattern. That single act of naming interrupts the autopilot. Step 2, track consistency, not intensity. For the first month of any connection, ignore how exciting it feels. Instead, quietly track whether their actions match their words over time. Why it works. Intensity is processed by the same reward circuitry as craving. Consistency is processed differently, through slower, more deliberate evaluation. You're training your brain to weigh a system it usually ignores. Example, someone says, I really want to see you again, but cancels twice. Instead of explaining it away, you simply note the gap between word and action. The pattern becomes data, not doubt. Step 3, practice tolerating calm. Deliberately spend time around steady, predictable people, friends, mentors, even a stable routine, and notice the urge to label it boring. Sit with that discomfort instead of running from it. Why it works. This is a form of exposure therapy applied to emotional safety. Repeated, non-threatening exposure to calm slowly recalibrates what your nervous system files under normal. Example: a friend who always follows through starts to feel less flat and more restful, the longer you let yourself stay in that relationship without needing it to spike. Step 4. Ask what you're actually earning. Before chasing someone's attention, ask yourself honestly, am I trying to win their love, or feel worthy again? Why it works. This interrupts a subconscious loop psychologists sometimes describe as reenactment, recreating an old emotional wound in hopes of finally resolving it, this time with a different ending. Example: you realize the person you're chasing feels eerily similar to someone from your past who never quite showed up for you. The chase was never really about them. Step 5. Choose availability as a practice, not a feeling. Availability might not feel thrilling at first. Choose it anyway, on purpose, until it starts to feel like something you deserve instead of something you settle for. Why it works. Behavior often precedes belief. Acting in alignment with self-worth, even before you fully feel it, gradually reshapes the underlying belief, a principle rooted in cognitive behavioral therapy. Example: you keep showing up for someone steady, even when the old voice in you whispers that it's too easy, until one day, it just feels like peace. Here's the one idea to keep. Your nervous system isn't choosing who deserves your love. It's choosing what feels familiar. And familiar was never the same thing as good for you. Once you see the current pulling you toward unavailable people for what it actually is, an old current, not a new love, you stop mistaking the pull for proof. You start asking a better question than, why don't they choose me? You start asking, why did I mistake distance for depth? You were never too much. You were simply fluent in a language built out of inconsistency, and fluency feels like home even when the home was never safe. You get to learn a new language now, one where love doesn't have to be chased to be real, one where calm isn't boring, it's just unfamiliar, for now. And maybe the real shift isn't finding someone who finally chooses you. Maybe it's noticing, quietly, that you've already started choosing yourself. If this video made you think differently, subscribe to Think Unordian, share your perspective in the comments, and join a growing community exploring psychology, philosophy, and self-mastery. That's all for today. Until next time, keep thinking beyond the ordinary.